The karaoke music was playing loudly and someone was singing along in a terrible voice on the stage with exaggerated dance moves. Everyone was laughing at him and shouting encouragements as he entertained our colleagues with his antics. Everyone but me. I had been laughing too, but my laughter had frozen in my throat when I noticed what Jeremy was doing while sitting right beside me. He was my colleague and boyfriend who had asked to marry me just a few months before, and I had been enjoying the sensation of secretly holding hands with the man I loved, but though he was holding my right hand with his left, he actually had his other hand on Cassandra's thigh. She was sitting on his other side wearing a skirt so short she was sitting on the bare sofa. It was very dark, with only the strobe lights illuminating us every now and again as it danced about, but it had happened to flash on them at the instant when I looked down and I could not deceive myself anymore. The rumors had all been true after all. Jeremy was seeing Cassandra behind my back. The wave of nausea I had been fighting overwhelmed me and I snatched up the wine bucket on the table, barely having time to take out the bottle before I threw up in it. The song was just ending and the lights had just come on as I did so, and my colleagues all hailed me and laughed, thinking it was all good fun. I got up and ran to the toilet. I was shaking and wondered if I had really seen what I had seen. But I could not distrust my eyes. No, perhaps I had just made the mistake. No. It was just not possible that my Jeremy, my sweet love and Jeremy, would do this to me. He would never betray me like this. I cleaned up as best as I could, and when I returned to the karaoke room it was dark again, illuminated only by the dancing colors of the strobe lights. Everyone was up and dancing, but like a magnet my eyes were drawn to the sight of Jeremy dancing with Cassandra. She had her back to him and he was dancing very close to her. I went over without them noticing me as they were so engrossed in each other. I suddenly pushed Cassandra aside and took her place. He looked at me in confusion and the haze of desire lifting slowly from his eyes, and he drew back from me embarrassed, but it was too late. He could not hide, he was caught. I looked into the eyes of my idol, my eyes brimming with tears, and ran from the room. Jeremy followed close behind. With his long legs he caught up to me just before I got to the building exit, and he held my arm tight. "Wait, Patricia," he said. "I can explain everything." I looked at him, surprise registering on my face. "You can explain? What exactly is your explanation?" "We were just dancing. Nothing else." "Actually, I was thinking of you." "Really? And when you had your hand up her skirt, were you thinking of me then too?" It was his turn to register surprise. He did not know that I had seen that. I saw him struggle to find an explanation and fail. "Is it true?" I asked him as I began to cry. "Have you been seeing her? Have you been sleeping with her?" "I did it for us," he said. "She is our supervisor, and she is in charge of the bonuses. I only sleep with her to get more bonuses and allowances so we can have money for our wedding." "So you are her slut?" His eyes flashed with anger. I had touched a nerve. "Well, he said. "I'm sorry, but this is real life, not some sort of fairy tale. I sleep with her, I get bonuses, I get travel opportunities, I get access. What do you actually offer me? You don't even give me sex." "We agreed to wait. You said it was romantic." "There is nothing romantic about it," he thundered at me. "I just find you disgusting. I don't want to touch you." I stumbled backwards at the force of his words. If he had slapped me, I would not have felt worse pain. "Am disgusting?" I stammered. "Then why are you marrying me?" "Because men marry plain wives like you to have children and keep house. The real fun is outside." I staggered against the door, feeling like I was going to throw up again. "I'm willing to marry you," Jeremy was still talking, "if you accept the fact that this is what men do. I can give you my name, but what I do outside and with whom I do it with is none of your business. Now, go home like a good girl and wait for my call." He turned around and walked back to the karaoke room. I could barely see him go, I was so overwhelmed by my tears and the nausea that I was struggling to keep under control, but then I couldn't keep it in anymore and I ran out the door to the side of the building where the rest of my dinner and all the drinks I had had, and then finally some bile poured out of me. It was only when I looked up in confusion and saw the black umbrella above my head that I realized how heavily it was raining and how completely drenched I was. But even as I realized it, I felt my senses go, and the last thing I remember seeing was the faintly familiar face of a man. When I woke up later, I was in a large bed in a strange room. I was dry, and wearing the softest dark blue dressing gown under the covers. I had no idea what fabric the beddings were made of, but they felt expensive. I got up with my head aching and saw some aspirin and a glass of water on the bedside table and helped myself. I called out Jeremy's name, concluding that I was in a hotel, and since only Jeremy could have brought me here, I assumed. But the door opened and a stranger walked boldly in. I drew the gown tightly across myself in alarm. "Who are you?" I asked. "Why are you here? And what have you done to me?" The stranger smiled boredly and called out behind him. "Ms. Jean, please come in. Our visitor is awake." A little lady over 50 years old and neatly dressed in a black gown and white apron came bustling into the room. "Well, move aside and let me see her," she said to the man in a familiar and kind voice. Oh dear, how did you come to be in such a condition? A nice-looking girl like you all wet through and crying like a baby and completely out of your mind. What would your mother say to find you in such a condition? Couldn't even tell Mr. Wesson where you live." I interrupted her with an urgent question. "Were you the one who dressed me?" She looked surprised. "Of course, who else would have dressed you? I had to bathe you and put you to bed, you were so out of it. He said he brought you back here because he did not know your address, so I had to take care of you, and it's a good thing too, because I'm sure you would not want to go home to your mother in the state that you were in last night, unless you don't live with your mother anymore. Oh dear, young girls these days are so independent. Out drinking alone on Friday night and it's already Saturday afternoon and you have been sleeping all this time. Do you need to call someone? Won't anyone be worried about you?" I let her talk on. Just relieved to have my honor intact. Ms. Jean meanwhile had taken my clothes out of a dryer in the bathroom and was saying something about ironing them and apologizing for my shoes which she could not save since the rain had completely destroyed them. I let my mind wander back to last night's events. How could Jeremy have treated me like that? Were those actually his plans for me? To marry me as a simple, boring, disgusting wife to bear his children and keep his house clean while he went about with other women? Had he never loved me? We had met on the first day I resumed at the office about a year ago, and he had courted me immediately, dazzling me with love and attention, and shielding me from any problems in the office. I was a simple girl from X Village and I was completely new to the big city. Even my local university education in X Town had not prepared me for life in the city. Indeed, I had only gotten this job thanks to my first-class result which led to my being headhunted. I had experienced no adversity until I came to work there, and Cassandra, our supervisor, had taken an immediate disliking to me, and because of her, no one dared be kind to me since she controlled their bonuses. Only Jeremy stood up for me, and I had thought of him as my hero. But I had always been aware of the rumors about him and Cassandra. I did not believe them because I could not afford to believe them. He was my only friend, not just in the office, but also in town. I had not yet had the opportunity to make any real friends since work took so much of my time. There seemed to always be so much to do, and Cassandra was never satisfied with my work. But last night the truth had been forced on me in a way that I could not refute. Jeremy was a fake. He was a scoundrel. Ms. Jean had left the room for a while, but she was now back and urging me to go out and eat some lunch while she got my clothes ready. Mr. Wesson had also allowed her to order some shoes online and she was expecting them to be delivered in a few hours. Please excuse me, ma'am, I interrupted her kind but unending stream of words. But who is Mr. Wesson? He looks familiar but I cannot place him. Mr. Wesson is the CEO of Shengyan Group. You may not believe it because of how young he is, but he is. And very handsome too. Shengyan Group. I cried in alarm. That's where I work. Oh, that's nice. So maybe you can talk about work together. She answered nonchalantly. Why don't you go out and eat? I'm sure he is waiting for you, and the food will be getting cold already. I composed myself, and, trying to walk as composedly as I could in what was obviously his dressing gown, I stepped into the living room. It matched the beauty of the bedroom in its decor and furnishing. Everything I saw looked classy and expensive. Mr. Wesson was waiting for me at the dining table with a variety of food arranged on it. He looked cold and unfriendly. Hello, sir, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, I can explain everything. I began, but he cut me off with a wave of his hand. Sit down, he ordered, and I obeyed. Eat, he said, and I turned mechanically to the food. It was only then that I perceived the aroma of it, and my tummy, which I had emptied last night, growled its hunger loud enough to be heard. I blushed. Eat, he said more gently. I tried my best, but despite my best efforts, and despite my extreme hunger, I found it hard to swallow, and tears repeatedly swelled in my eyes. Finally, after the awkward lunch was over and I had dressed in my freshly washed clothes and new shoes, he invited me to the cool leather couch in his living room. I saw what happened last night, he started, and the tears that were still so near began to fall. Are you interested in some revenge? I was confused. Why would you? I mean, I appreciate it, but... I feel responsible for you, he explained. I employed you personally when I saw your file. I was impressed with your grade, and I have been following your career since you started. Oh, I did not know that. Thank you for the job, sir, and for your interest, but you cannot hold yourself responsible for what Jeremy did. Mr. Wesson clenched his fist as his face darkened. No, but if you are interested, I do not mind helping you to get even with him. No, sir, I said. I prefer to handle things myself if you don't mind. He smiled softly and said nothing for a while. Then let me take you home. He drove me personally to my cheap flat. He was completely silent as I thanked him. He turned to me suddenly as if to speak. I had been leaning forward as I tried to undo the seatbelt, and so I found myself looking into eyes so dark I momentarily lost myself in their dark pools. Call me when you change your mind, he said, and offered me his card. I was still gazing mesmerized into his eyes, and I only pulled myself away by an effort. I took his proffered card and hurried out of his car. I heard from Jeremy that Saturday night. He called to ensure that I was home, and ordered me to stay there because he might visit. He didn't call again that weekend, and neither did he visit me. When I saw him at work on Monday, he was rude and arrogant. I was surprised. The way he was treating me was as though he expected me to apologize to him, rather than he to me. Tuesday was no different, and neither was Wednesday. On Thursday, Cassandra called me into her office for a little chat, as she put it. She complained again about my work and about not pulling my weight, which surprised me since I seemed to be doing the most work of anyone in the office. I regularly stayed after closing to finish other people's work, and I was never late with my reports. I realized then that all this time, she had simply been trying to put me down since we were rivals in love. After work on Friday, the staff of our department usually went out drinking, and if we had met an important target, like we did last week, we went all out and had dinner and karaoke. But this Friday, Jeremy bluntly told me that after my behavior last Friday, he did not think that it was wise for me to go out with him, since I was so unsophisticated as to embarrass him in public. I sat watching him as he picked up his jacket and slung it over his shoulder and walked out, after which Cassandra told me to attend to the work in my mailbox and submit to her first thing on Monday morning, then sauntered out after him. I could not believe how they were treating me, and I had done nothing to deserve it. I saw the pitying glances of some of my other colleagues and the disdain on the faces of the others, and I finally had enough. I was maybe from a small town, but I was a first-class student. I would not be treated like trash just because I did not know how to dress and behave as the city girls did. I would take my revenge on Jeremy and make him regret his actions and his scorn. I would make him regret all his actions toward me. I was now alone in the office and I searched my bag for the card Mr. Wesson had given me. I called his number and he asked me to come to his office. His office was on the top floor and I took the elevator up. It was larger than my entire apartment and had a whole sitting area with a beautiful white leather sofa and matching brown easy chairs arranged in it. His desk was large, organically shaped, and was placed in front of the back wall on an elevated platform that stretched between the two side walls. 3 steps led up to it. There were 2 guest seats in front of it. Mr. Wesson was seated at his desk when I came in, but he got up and walked casually around the desk and down the steps, his eyes appraising me as he did. He waved me to the sofa and I sat obediently. He was tall and well-built. His dark straight hair was cut in a fade that ended in a spiky top. His face was well-defined with dark eyes and a strong jaw. His lips were full. His chest and shoulders were broad, his hips narrow, and his hands strong, unlike what one would expect from a businessman. He had obviously spent a lot of time in the gym. He was dressed in a dark gray suit and a black shirt beneath it, no tie, and black patent leather shoes. He looked as though he had spent the day posing for GQ magazine. As he surveyed me, I felt more and more embarrassed at my looks. I was wearing jeans, since it was Friday, but I had not been able to buy my size, since I was tall and my hips wider than average. That meant that what fit my waist was often too tight at the hips and what fit my hips was usually too loose at the waist. On top of this, my trousers were always too short. My blue t-shirt had a white spot on it where I had tried to bleach out an ink stain. I had been trying to copy the shabby chic look, but the way he was looking at me, I just felt shabby. "So you have had time to reconsider my offer," he said. "Have you decided what you are going to do?" I looked him directly in the eyes. I want him to feel bad for what he has done to me. I want him to regret treating me the way he has done. Is that all? Why do you think he treated you like that? Because I am not beautiful enough. No, Mr. Wesson countered. He treated you like that because he thinks he can. He is a bully, and you allowed him to bully you. People will treat you according to how you present yourself. If you want to be treated well, you should show people that you are used to being treated well. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard. I was quiet for a while as I considered his words. How do I treat myself better? You must spend money on yourself. So tomorrow we will start the process of teaching you how to take pride in yourself. We will make him regret you and beg at your feet. Thank you, Mr. Wesson. Call me Theo. That weekend he took me shopping. First we went to the shops that I usually patronized, but after looking briefly at the selection clothes there, he took me to the high-end boutiques in town and paid for my clothes. He bought me shoes, he even bought me underwear. But he told me not to wear them until I had had my hair and makeup done professionally. That week, he took me out to lunch every day and after work he took me to dinner. It was like I was on holiday. He treated me better than anybody had ever treated me before. He made me relax, he laughed at my jokes, and made me feel special. By the end of the week, I was developing a new confidence in myself that had not been there before, and people were beginning to notice it. First, I insisted on taking my lunch every day, unlike before when I would have to eat homemade dishes at my desk because I was overwhelmed by work. Then I had a new spring in my step, and instead of bowing my head when my colleagues talked to me, I looked them right in the eye. After all, I was hobnobbing with the CEO himself. It was my huge secret and it put a permanent twinkle in my eyes. The more nicely Theo treated me, the less shy I felt in the midst of people. I did not know it then, but I began to blossom. I no longer sought for Jeremy's attention, and I actually ignored him when he made a non-work related comment to me. That made him come after me. He found me in the cafeteria getting a cup of tea on Friday afternoon and demanded to know why I was acting the way I was. He accused me of being rude, and then informed me that he would be coming to my apartment on Saturday afternoon for lunch, and so I should be prepared. The audacity. How had I never noticed his insolence before? How could I have let him walk all over me like I had been doing all these months? Now that Theo, who was richer, classier and better looking than him, was opening doors for me and handling me tenderly, I was unconsciously realizing my actual value. I knew it was not real, it was all a revenge plan, but still I could not help responding to all of it. As soon as Jeremy left me, I sent Theo a text informing him of all that had happened, and he invited me out that Saturday. He took me to a salon where he waited while the stylist cut and put highlights in my hair. Then he took me to a spa where I was massaged and my nails were polished. It was the first time a small-town girl like me had ever experienced any of these, and I felt like royalty. I did not get home until late that night because Theo took me to his house and cooked me dinner. On Sunday, he invited me to his house where he had also invited a makeup artist who taught me how to apply simple everyday makeup in a manner that flattered my features. "You have a very pretty face," she said. "Me?" I asked, disbelieving. "Yes, you," she laughed. "You do have a pretty face, and beautiful eyes. And your mouth is well shaped. You could be a lipstick model." "How can I be pretty? With my fat body." "You are not fat. You are a bit chubby, but you are not fat at all." Theo came over to us and looked at me as he spoke to the artist. "She does not know her own value. It looks like she is the most humble girl in the country. No one has ever told her." He stopped. Then cleared his throat. "Don't use so much red lipstick. Let it be more subtle." He said this part in a matter-of-fact way and walked quickly out of the room. "Your boyfriend really loves you," the artist whispered to me. "Boyfriend?" I laughed. "He is not my boyfriend. He is actually my boss." "Well, you must really be the most humble girl in the country if you cannot see how he looks at you." I became confused. Weren't we doing all of this for my revenge? Surely we were. That was our agreement. But my mind continued to dwell on what she said. When she finally left, Theo invited me out to buy the makeup that she had recommended. The store was located in the Ritz Hotel, and after we were done shopping, he invited me to swim in their pool, and despite my protests before many minutes had passed, I found myself wearing an ugly pink and gray one-piece suit with a soft white bathrobe over it, sitting shyly on a deck chair by the pool watching him swim in an equally ugly pair of orange swim shorts. When he looked up and saw me, he pulled himself out of the far end of the pool. I watched him walk toward me, the sun glistening on the water on his broad shoulders and chest. His long legs and muscular thighs could have covered the distance in half the time it took him to walk to me, but he was taking his time, enjoying my confusion and my flushed cheeks as with every step I became more aware of his manly beauty. When he got to me, I found I was not breathing. He pulled me to my feet and, loosening the sash of my bathrobe, pushed it off my shoulders. "I will teach you to swim," he said. "I can swim," I answered, trying hard to escape the thoughts that were racing through my mind, and I turned and jumped into the pool, partly because I wanted to hide my body in the water, and partly because I needed the coolness of the water to douse the heat that was engulfing me. This was not a date, this was part of the revenge. I could not let myself be attracted by this man. Theo dived in after me and came up just beside me. He looked at me with his eyes ablaze. "You don't have to hide," he said. "You are beautiful, very beautiful." "I'm fat," I said deprecatingly. "You don't have to compliment my body." "You are not fat," he countered, reaching out and pulling me close to him. "You are soft. Every woman should be soft." We were so close, but then he suddenly dunked me underwater. I spluttered at the unexpectedness of it and, laughing, we spent the rest of the day chasing each other around the pool, drinking mocktails and eating roast meats from the tiki bar. It was about 8 p.m. when he finally dropped me off. He usually didn't leave his car because he did not want to be seen in case Jeremy was around. But to my surprise, he got out, came around to my side, opened my door for me, and handed me out. Just like gentlemen did in old movies. "Thanks for today," I said to him as he walked me to my door. "I had a very nice time. And thanks for the makeup too. I hope I will remember how to use it in the morning. I will wake up early to dress up," I laughed. He did not laugh with me. "I don't ever want to ever hear you say that you are fat. You are not. You are a beautiful, desirable woman. Your body, your hips, you are beautiful." He barely breathed the last words, and I could not answer him. I was still trying to get used to the idea of anyone finding me desirable. We got to my door. "Well, this is where I live," I said. He looked at me for a little while. "May I kiss you?" I was surprised by the question. Theodore Wesson was asking to kiss me? Not that I did not want to kiss him. I had been fighting the urge for days, and today at the pool had been particularly difficult. Then I brought myself back to my senses. It's probably part of the revenge plan, I told myself, and I closed my eyes and puckered, expecting a light peck. I did not expect his strong arms to hug me to himself, or the heat of his mouth, or the passion behind his kiss. I was reeling when he finally released me. "Jeremy does not deserve you," he said, then he kissed my forehead and walked away. I sailed into the office on Monday morning full of confidence and my head held high, my new hairstyle and makeup matching the new clothes Theo had bought me. The word spread quickly, and even a few people from other departments came over to talk to me and see the change in my appearance. There was a constant buzz of excited conversation and a feeling of anticipation. You see, neither Jeremy nor Cassandra had arrived at work yet. Ever since I had caught them, they had become less cautious, and often arrived at work late and at about the same time. The rumors that they were dating were even stronger than they had ever been, and the disdain against me had increased. But from today I was going to gain their respect. Patricia the dowdy township girl was gone. This new Patricia was a beautiful woman who had been kissed by one of the richest and most handsome men any of them had ever seen, and she was worthy of respect. The buzz of conversation died down when Jeremy entered the office. He put down his things and then walked over to my desk, but stopped short when he saw me. His eyes popped out of his head and his mouth dropped open. Then he realized himself and he dragged a chair over to me and sat. He seemed confused as to where to begin because he kept staring at me. I was wearing a gray skirt suit. The jacket was peplum and well cut so that it accentuated my hips and revealed the figure I did not know I had. The skirt ended just below my knees and made my well-shaped legs look longer and leaner. The lace-edged camisole covered my bust, but then my fitting bra gave it a sculpted, firm shape. Cassandra called me to her office. She eyed me maliciously as I walked in. "Where are the reports that I asked you to finish last Friday?" "I handed in my reports on Friday afternoon," I responded. "No, you did not," she countered. "I sent you an email with 2 other reports that I asked you to finish and send to me before Monday morning. Where are they?" "I realized that you made a mistake," I said, looking her in the eye. "I emailed you my finished report on Friday afternoon, and the ones you sent me were not a correction of my report, but those of other people. So I did not do it." I saw her face grow tight and white with anger. "Are you saying that I gave you a direct instruction and you refused to obey it?" "I'm saying that it is against company policy for one person to do someone else's end-of-week report. You can call the compliance department to confirm it." I felt daring as I spoke to her because for the first time as I looked at her I realized what she actually was, a cheat. She cheated me to get her to finish her reports, and she cheated me out of my fiancé. She had probably cheated to get this position as our supervisor, and who knows what else. And for all that, as I looked into her eyes I saw a bit of fear, uncertainty, and the clear unmistakable glint of jealousy. "How dare you talk back at me? I will write you up." "Please do so," I said boldly. Send it to my mailbox and I will be sure to respond immediately and escalate it to the department head. She balked at this and seemed to relent. I took a good look at her and walked out of her office. Outside her door my colleagues were silent as I made my way back to my desk, and I knew that they had heard every word between Cassandra and me. I coughed a few admiring glances, but I also saw Jeremy's angry face. I had hardly sat down before I received a message from him. "Meet me in the stairwell, now." It said. "Yes, boss," I said to myself sarcastically and powered on my sleeping computer to continue my work for the day. The days of him ordering me about were over. I used to think it was romantic to sneak away for a few romantic words and dry kisses from him, but now I knew his worth and my value, I ignored him. It was at least 10 minutes later when I got another text from him. "Where are you?" I could imagine his angry voice, and I responded. "I'm at my desk." "Didn't you get my text? Come to the stairwell now. I've been waiting here for 10 minutes. I'm busy, Jeremy. I will see you during lunch." I heard the door to the stairwell bang open and shut in the corridor outside our section. A moment later he turned the corner into our section and gave me a look that would have lifted me up and slammed me against the floor if it could. "Patricia," he barked, and every eye turned to him in astonishment. I looked at him, shook my head and finally stood. It was better to handle things quietly. I went with him to the door of the stairwell, but I would not go in. I had no intention of being with him in a secluded place anymore. "We can talk here. There is no one around," I said. He looked like he would have said something, but then changed his mind. "I was at your place on Saturday like I said I would be. You were not there." "Where were you?" His voice was accusing. "Out, obviously." "I don't understand. I told you that I would be coming for lunch, and you went out? You invited yourself to my house without asking if it would be convenient for me." "It was not, so I went out." He didn't know what to say. "I don't understand what is going on. Are you cheating on me? Where did you get these clothes? Where did you go?" The irritation that had been building up, the anger that I was learning to give rein to was threatening to burst out at this hypocrisy. "Yes, I see that you really are confused, Jeremy. You are the one that cheated. Your only miscalculation is that you thought that I would be so grateful that you deigned to marry me that I would be quiet. But I am not grateful. In fact, you should consider us over. I do not want to have anything to do with such a man as you." I was shaking with anger as I spoke, and I reveled in the feeling of freedom it gave me. I had never spoken to anyone like this, not even my family members. Jeremy was shocked. "Do you think that because you have bought a designer suit, that it changes who you are? You are a small girl from a no-name town without even a family name. It is a privilege for a man like me to notice you. Without this suit, who are you? Do you have a house? Do you have a man with as much prospects as me? You are nothing." I laughed quietly, thinking of Theo and silently comparing them. Then I remembered his kiss and I blushed. I turned quickly, but not before Jeremy saw it. He caught me by the arm. "You are seeing someone else, you little minx. You two-timing whore. Who is he? Tell me." He shook me violently as his jealousy rose. I pushed him off me with equal violence. "Get your hands off me," I ordered. "I am not seeing anyone, and even if I was, did you think that I would wait for you? You are nothing but a cheat, and I will never stoop to date someone like you. It was over between us the moment I caught you with your hand up Cassandra's skirt, and if you ever put your hands on me again I will make you live to regret it." I turned to walk away and only then saw my colleagues gathered in the corridor watching the show. I lifted my head and walked through them back to my seat. Cassandra was standing at the back of the crowd, her face flushed with embarrassment. I stopped and gave her a sideways glance to let her know that I did not care that she had heard our conversation, and I walked to my desk and sat down. The show was over, my colleagues were stunned and entertained, and I began to tremble all over. I sent a message to Theo asking for support. I just had a quarrel with Jeremy. The fool insisted on having it out in the office. Everyone is staring. This is just the beginning of your revenge, he responded, stay strong. Then he sent me a fist emoji. I calmed myself and the rest of my day was uneventful. Neither Jeremy nor Cassandra dared to talk to me anymore. The rest of the week went by quietly, the only difference being that I was invited to hang out with a few girls after work, which I refused, making excuses that I was previously engaged. That Saturday, I thought to spend the day quietly at home practicing my makeup and how to style my hair. But Jeremy came visiting. I let him in and left the door wide open. I didn't trust him. He saw my action. I'm not welcome, is that it? Yes, I said simply. Why are you here? I'm here because I refuse to let you go. You are my girl. You are my fiancé. I want to marry you, and I love you. If I am all that, then what is Cassandra to you? Cassandra is a passport. He said. She is nothing to me. I'm only using her to get ahead. Wow, and does she know that she is nothing but a passport to you? Yes, she is only using me too. I'm handsome and she likes me, but she knows that we have no future together. The whole office knows that I'm going to marry you. Even the director knows. In fact, he is the one who recommended you to me when you were first employed. I understood now why he seemed desperate to have me back. If it got back to the director that he was a two-timing philanderer, he would lose face and every prospect of promotion. It only lowered him even more in my estimation. Meanwhile, I pitied Cassandra, because even if she was using him, I doubted that she would be happy to hear how he described her. So what do you want from me? I asked. I want things to go back to the way they were. You are a simple woman, you are not like these loose women in this city. You need a man to marry so that you can have his children and a nice home. Do not be deceived by the men who are buying you clothes and things. They have no good intentions for you. They will use you and dump you and leave you with regrets. Trust me. All men are the same. No man will be faithful to you. That is not the way men are built. Let it be that way. I answered without looking at him. He was even lower than I thought he was. As of now, I do not have a boyfriend or even an admirer, but it is better to be single forever than to tie myself to a man like you. Please leave. But I have not had lunch. I thought we could spend some time together like we used to do just a few weeks ago. Please, I will treat you better. I walked over to the open door without saying another word, and still without dignifying him with a look. When at last with a sigh he got to his feet and stepped out the door, I slammed it so hard he must have been alarmed. I spent Sunday with Theo and Ms. Jean and relayed the entire drama to them. Theo looked proud of me, but he held himself aloof. He was not as relaxed around me as he used to be. I was still as respectful of him as I used to be, and the kiss had not made me more comfortable, but I knew that it was all part of the revenge plot, and I knew it was to bolster me psychologically. I knew that there was nothing behind it. It's all going according to plan, he said. And now it is time to put the second and final phase into place. What are you going to do? I asked. Wait and see. On Monday, I got an email from HR transferring me to the CEO's office as his liaison staff. No one suspected that I was friends with the CEO, so I got a lot of envious congratulations and good wishes. Some even said that my star was on the rise as a consolation for Jeremy's abominable treatment. Cassandra was one person who did not react well to the news. She marched up to HR and demanded that the transfer be nullified because I was one of her best staff, I was the engine room of her team, I was irreplaceable. I heard all of this from a colleague who had a friend in HR, and I was surprised. I thought I was the weak link of the team since Cassandra had always complained about me. In fact, she was jealous of the transfer and would have wanted it for herself. Of course the transfer went ahead, and since it was with immediate effect, I packed up my things and moved up to the CEO's office that day. Theo, meanwhile, had gone on abroad and was not expected back for weeks. On his return there was to be a banquet celebrating the acquisition of a foreign subsidiary. I was of course expected to attend as part of the staff of his office, and so were the supervisors and selected staff from our company. Cheers! I went shopping and bought a black, fit and flare, floor-length, sleeveless gown with a boat neckline and asymmetrical hem that showed off my rounded arms and collarbones, and allowed my well-shaped legs to peek out as I walked. I was not skinny and slim, but I was not fat, I was curvy, and I had learned to appreciate it. My narrow waist was accentuated by the silver belt of the dress, and I had my hair and makeup professionally done for the evening. I knew I looked amazing. I stepped into the hall for the event together with the new friends I had made in the office, and immediately felt the stares of several men around. I did not get much attention from the women, but the men were definitely interested. I looked around blushing slightly from all the attention, and then I saw Jeremy. He noticed me at the same time, and I saw his jaw drop in surprise and admiration. I tossed my hair and turned away to walk the room together with my friends. It was not long before he accosted me and tried to take my hand. I slapped his hand away with my purse. "Wow," he said, almost drooling. "Wow. How come you never looked like this before? What happened to you? You look sexy without even trying." "Thank you," I said and started to turn away. Wait, Patricia, I've realized my mistake. I didn't know what I had until I lost it. I want you back, I need you back." I had heard by now that Cassandra had been making me do her and Jeremy's reports, taking advantage of my intelligence being a first-class graduate, while inhibiting my progress. They had connived to use me to climb higher as much as they could, and when I refused to cooperate anymore, they had both been reprimanded for poor job performance, and the recommendation for removing Cassandra from her supervisory role had been approved. As for Jeremy, his transfer to a small branch in a faraway town had also been approved. The director that Jeremy had been working so hard to please had heard of his and Cassandra's actions and taken action against both of them. I knew all this thanks to my vantage position in the CEO's office. I also realized that he was trying to use me to reverse his transfer. This was not love or repentance, it was all selfishness and self-interest. Cassandra was no longer of use to him, and I turned out to be a lot more influential, not to mention more beautiful, than she had ever been to him. As he spoke there was the sound of applause. I turned to see that Messrs. Wesson Sr. and Jr. had entered the hall. After waving at the crowd and being greeted by many well-wishers, Mr. Wesson Sr. took a seat at the table of honor and Theo ascended the platform to give a speech. I turned to Jeremy. "I'm not interested in you, Jeremy. Don't bore me." And I walked away to find my table to listen to the speech. It was a good speech, at the end of which Theo read out the names of personnel that had participated in making the acquisition a reality, and who had achieved an extraordinary performance in their duties and gave awards to them. Then he began to tell a story about how his father had started the company many years ago. He talked about his father's childhood friend who had believed in him and was the first to invest in his company with giving him his life's savings. This was when they were still young men, before either of them was married. Mr. Wesson Sr. had promised his friend that if he ever had a child, he would to give him 10% of the company's shares if the company prospered. The company had, but they had lost contact with each other. Then Theo announced that he had found the old friend who unfortunately had passed away, but had had a daughter. And so it was now his pleasure to name the beneficiary of the shares which his father had kept aside all these years, and looking straight at me, he said, "Patricia Parker." I was stunned. I did not move. Theo came down and took my hand, leading me back up to the podium. He continued to talk. A little over a year ago, when Shengyan Group hired new staff, I went through the files of the more promising candidates, and noticed Patricia Parker's name and home address. I had often heard my father talk about his old friend to whom he had made the promise I referred to, except that it was a different town, though in the same region. I hired Miss Parker for her first-class grade, and began to quietly make inquiries into her home. I soon discovered who she actually was, the daughter of my father's friend. I informed my father of it, and he was only too willing to hand over the shares along with the dividends that he had carefully kept away, waiting for the day when he would find his friend. I felt like I was in a dream as the camera lights flashed at me and Theo's father climbed the stage and took both my hands in his. It was like a Cinderella story, and I was suddenly a princess. I caught sight of Jeremy as he slinked out of the hall. If only he had treated me well, he would now have been the husband of an heiress. He would have been a multi-millionaire. Too bad. The event ended late, and I spent the night at the hotel at Theo's insistence. My house could no longer be safe for me with the announcement that had been made. I would stay at the hotel until suitable accommodation was found for me. 2 days later, Theo took me to see his father, and after a very pleasant chat, he took me on a walk around the huge garden. "How did you like your revenge?" he asked me. "I did not expect it to be so grand," I said. "Did you know from the beginning that I was the Mr. Parker's daughter?" "Not at first. In fact, I only finally confirmed it during this last trip. Your father was an old-fashioned man. He only used cash, and so it was a little difficult to track him." I was thoughtful. "Then tell me, why did you offer a revenge plan in the first place? Was it just for your amusement?" It was his turn to be quiet. "Actually," he began slowly. "The first time I saw your picture in your candidate file I got interested. You were the only first-class graduate that had applied. When you attended the interview, I saw you in person and it struck me that you were beautiful but very shy and reserved. I began to follow your career and I was surprised that your supervisor was not satisfied with you, and so I asked my people to look into the matter, and that was how I got to know your story. That night at the karaoke bar, I was so angry, but I was angry at you as well for allowing him to treat you like that. You passed out, and I put you in my car, and when I asked you for your address you grabbed me by my collar and called me by Jeremy's name. You said you would have your revenge on me and Cassandra. That's when I fell in love with you. Under that timid exterior was a warrior. So I decided to help you. I knew that if I showed you how a woman was supposed to be treated it would boost your confidence and you would handle the rest yourself, and that is exactly what you did. It was only later I realized who you truly were." "So?" I said, my heart bursting with love for him, yet feeling very shy. "That kiss?" "I never planned to kiss you," he said, "but when I saw you in that ugly swimsuit I almost lost my mind." My heartbeat quickened and I felt a flush rising to my face. Theo was gazing at me. I was losing myself in his deep, dark eyes. "I still have not recovered," he said. And taking me in his arms, he kissed me like he would never let me go. His father insisted on our marriage, and we walked down the aisle barely 2 months later.
If you liked this story, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps others find the channel. Thanks.